Hello everyone, I'm Sara Raney. I'm not an attorney, but the proud mother of Dr. Kenley Gene Raney, who lost his life to a damn drunk on January 25th, 2019. Of course, as a mother, I was shocked and in trauma and all alone. I trusted the legal system, but only knew what I had seen on TV, which is not reality. The reality is that our loved ones are case numbers in a pile of other cases on the DA's desk. Now, the DA works for the state, not us. And victims get all the rights, unless we, the victims, understand our rights and be a squeaky wheel. Now, I had the unfortunate experience of working with a DA who was very much indifferent. Now, this isn't always the case, but the DAs are overworked and have a lot of cases on their desk. And they need to get these cases off their desk. And one of the ways to eliminate a court trial or a jury trial would be a plea deal. And the DA has the right to do a plea deal without contacting the victims. So think about it this way. If you're overworked and you have a bunch of cases on your desk and you have somebody calling you up and asking you what's happening with that case or going to all the hearings, you're going to pay more attention to that case than another case where nobody seems to be involved. Unfortunately, this is true. Now, what is a plea deal? Now, a plea deal is also known as a plea bargain. Plea agreement is an arrangement between the prosecutor and defendant in a criminal case, not the victim, like I said. In a plea deal, the defendant agrees to plead guilty or no contest to certain charges in exchange for concessions from the prosecutor, such as a reduced sentence. Now, dropping certain charges, which happened in my case, or recommending a specific sentence to the judge. But again, it is between the prosecutor and the defense attorney. Now, what do you think could happen if your child's case is just a number in a pile, like I said before, or other cases, and you are not actively involved, in other words, the squeaky wheel? Yes, it is a way of closing a case without a lengthy trial. And by a lengthy trial, that could mean months and years of investigation. The DA does not have to get permission from you to do this. I've said this to you before. They don't have to get permission. I found myself after 5 years in a plea deal. This is my story. In my case, this charge for a vehicle used as a weapon was dropped. He was speeding 136 miles per hour and hit a parked car. Marshall, Kenley's dog, flew 500 feet to his death. And my son was trapped in a crushed car, or what was left of it, which wasn't much. But when it came to a plea deal, I could not have said I did not want it and I wanted a jury trial. Well, I guess I could have said it, but it wouldn't have happened. Victims' rights are on paper, but do not expect them to be a priority unless you push them. But to push them, you have to know them. Getting cases off the DA's desk is their priority. Now, even the federal 2004 ZVRA, now that is the Crime Victims' Rights Act, is not taken seriously. Nor is the state 1983 Marsy's Law, which protects victims, especially the law that says we must be notified if the defendant is released for any reason, such as a bond or parole. And I know for a fact the guy that killed my son, he wasn't even arrested for 10 months. And he skipped 6 months on the first bond, 3 months on the second. I was never notified. Now, to find out if your state passed this law, you can go to www.marsyslaw.us/states and find out if it is in your state. I know Nevada just passed it this year, which is where I live. Now, here are some of the things that happened to me. Now, I do not think this law was even considered, because I was deliberately put in the area of the court where I came face to face with the man and his mother who took my son's life, and it didn't end there. That infamous day was December 23rd, 2021. Since then, because of the actions that happened that day, I've been treated for PTSD. Now let's get back to plea deals. Now the judge must approve plea deals to ensure that they are fair and voluntary. While plea deals benefit prosecutors and defendants, like I said, critics argue, get a load of this one, critics argue they may lead to injustices, such as pleading guilty to crimes they did not commit out of the fear of facing more severe consequences if they go to trial. Now, I know in my case, there was no doubt that he murdered my son. There was no doubt. And he knew that if the jury seen what was left of the car and the body of my child and poor Marshall, his beautiful dog who flew 500 feet to his death, would have been considered, especially among those who loved animals and loved children. It was horrible. However, plea deals remain a fundamental aspect of criminal justice system. This is also a way to get cases off the DA's desk, like I've said, especially now with many cases involving DUIs. Now, I understand that in 2022, there were 13,000 incidents involving alcohol in 1 year. 1 year. Now, the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, says that every 70 seconds, someone is involved in an alcohol-related incident. Every 70 seconds. Who's next? I know of someone who lost their child and years later lost her husband to a drunk driver. Incidentally, her husband served 3 terms in the Iraq War and survived only to be killed by a damn drunk driver within weeks after returning home. This sounds familiar? The guy who killed my son was supposedly on probation for 18 months and not allowed to drink. Got off for probation. 8 weeks later, killed my son. The DA can accept a plea deal without the victim's consent. Another reason to be a squeaky wheel and get involved in your child's case. Now, this did not stop me from getting a plea deal, and I will tell you why later. Now, what about us, the victims? Everything is about whether the criminal is treated fairly. Not about us. In my case, I was treated horribly by the DA until an assistant DA stepped in and saved the case. She seen what was going on. As a grieving mother who has tragically lost her child at the hands of a murderer, yes, a murderer. And by the way, this is not an accident, this is a crash. It's agonizing to witness the ongoing focus on the rights and fairness afforded to criminals within the justice system. At every turn, it seems like the spotlight shines on whether the drunk is being treated justly, while we, the victims, and our families often fade into the background. Be a squeaky wheel, but know your rights. Plea deals. Push and essential agreements between prosecutors and defendants can benefit both parties, not the victims. Yet what about the victims? We are left shattered by the hideous actions of these damn drunks. It's disheartening to observe how plea bargains, which may result in reduced sentences or drop charges for the accused, can disregard the profound loss and suffering endured by those left behind us. We have life sentences with trauma and loneliness every day of our lives, not to mention we lost beautiful children who would have been productive, caring, and loving people. In my case, how many lives do you think Kenley would have saved as an emergency room physician, and a DNA expert, and a nutrition expert? How many lives do you think that drunk will save? No, he will continue taking if he's allowed out. In my opinion, a criminal is just that, a criminal who should be placed in jail the first time, not allowed to be bailed out, especially when the probation department is not doing their job. The DA is not enforcing the rules such as the IDs or DRAM devices, urine test. My son might be alive today if they had done so, or if they had done their job, or if they had done their damn job. My son did not get a second chance, and he did the right thing that night. When he got tired to drive, he pulled off into the state-sanctioned rest area because he did the right thing. He was murdered by this drunk who had many offenses and should never have been given so many chances. This man is worthless to society, as all drunk drivers who kill are. They are murderers. This is not an accident. This is a murder. If he ever gets out again, he has a 70% chance of reoffending. He does have family members who will enable him. I know for a fact his mother was out drinking with him and posting on Facebook. And this was whenever he disappeared for 6 months on bond. Now, this is what happened to me. The authority of the district attorney to greenlight plea deals without needing the victim's blessing was something I anticipated with a sense of resignation. In Texas, the surge in DUI manslaughter cases has resulted in what I understood as a standard practice of granting first-time murderers or offenders a 10-year probation term. When the new DA extended a plea deal my way, I took the opportunity to outline my stipulations, hoping they would acknowledge. However, my requests were brushed aside, leaving me disillusioned again. The DA inherited many issues from our predecessor, and it appears I'm not the only one grappling with the dissatisfaction over the previous DA's handling of the case. There's a profound imbalance when the scales of justice seems to fit or tilt in favor of those committed crimes, while innocent lives are cut short due to repeated leniency and misplaced sympathy. It's a stark reality that too much empathy for the criminals that can cost innocent children their lives like ours. As a society, we must strive for a justice system that ensures fairness, ensuring that their voices are not lost amidst legal proceedings. We must insist that our justice system does its job, follows victims' rights, and enforces its rulings. My journey underscores the critical importance of advocacy, persistence, and the need for a legal system that better supports victims and their families, ensuring our rights are not sidelined by procedural bottlenecks or lack of empathy. Now let's unite to guide others through their darkest moments by sharing our stories. By doing so, we can empower those navigating this horrible legal system to pursue justice for their loved ones. Together, we can help others. Please share your stories and help other victims going through the worst time in their lives. Together, we can navigate this legal system and help them. Remember, in the face of adversary, we're stronger together. Let's keep this conversation going. For Kenley, my wonderful son, Marshall, his beautiful dog, and every soul taken too soon, our journey towards justice and healing continues. I am not an attorney, but the proud mother of Dr. Kenley Gene Raney, who was killed by a drunk on January 25th, 2019. Thank you for listening. Oh, geez.